Collected in hardcover for the first time, Trilogy U.S.A. is the work of writer Eves H. and artist Herman, a look through the seamy side of America through the eyes of 3 different policemen in 3 different eras.
The first part of the trilogy, Blood Ties, focuses on a rookie detective called Sam Layton and on his investigation into a series of murders which lead him to a seductive lounge singer, a mysterious private detective, and ultimately into conflict with the most powerful man in the city.
I enjoyed this first story. I'm a big fan of the noir genre, as you know, and I felt like Blood Ties took the concept in an interesting direction. You're not likely to see the twist coming when it does, but that's not for lack of foreshadowing.
No, and I think the art style really stands up too. Each panel is daubed in a grim grey or brown watercolour. There are also some nice visual references to the genre, like the reproduction of Edward Hopper's famous painting, Nighthawks.
The second story is titled Manhattan Beach 1957 and features a new city, a new point in time, and a new cop. This time his name is John Haig.
John is a man lost in yesterday. Repeated black and white flashbacks show us a tragedy in his youth, while in his present day he remains in grayscale, showing his unwillingness to move on. It's an elegant way of establishing the character. Also, Elvis is his imaginary friend.
John is investigating the rape and murder of a 15-year-old girl when the past that he spends so much time obsessing over starts coming back to haunt him and places him in extreme danger. I think as you move into this second part of the story, you start to see the overall themes and the momentum of the trilogy.
And in the third section, The Girl from Ipanema, we have a further jump forward, and it builds even further on the reoccurring themes: corruption, violence towards women, and the weight of the past.
I did find in some ways that the third part didn't quite mesh though. It becomes a lot more heavily written with large sections of narration, and there's less of a focus on the sole protagonist, in this case, Lieutenant Chavez.
I didn't see that as a negative thing though. It felt like the story was being opened up. It became more complex and more textured, but the overall flavour of the trilogy still ran through it.
I know, but it felt like an odd shift of gears to me, especially reading this hardcover all in one sitting.
Yep.
The first 2 parts felt like they moved along a lot more easily, whereas in the third part, I felt the urge to skim through some of the excessive narration. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's still a great book, but that lack of focus and momentum at the end made me drop it from a buy down to a borrow.
Okay, well, I actually really liked the third part. I thought the added complexity and larger cast of characters just added something to that story. The art style throughout is just beautiful, highlighting each one of those eras, and there's a really clever use of music and lyrics throughout this book that I really liked. This is something I am so going to reread, so it's a buy from me.